more simply. And as I said before, I promised myself I would try to give the essence away of what I know every time I talk. And that's a challenge, because when I do say things, often people respond and say, well, it's not that simple. It can't be that simple. But yet, it is that simple. I remember when I was struggling so hard, and often when I did talk to successful people, what they told me sounded like Zen koans to me. They sounded like things that were enigmatic little stories whose meaning was elusive somehow. But sometimes the simplicity itself is elusive. For some reason, because of all our backgrounds, education, whatever, we're looking for something more complicated or something new and original, something fresh. I admire the Deepak Chopras of the world that can find wonderful new terminology to say the same old thing, to make it at least sound fresh. But for me, that can make it sound too complicated. I loved it when Deepak said, within every desire is the seed and mechanics for its fulfillment. That's brilliant. That's brilliant way to say, within every desire, we are capable of fulfilling that desire. And the mechanics, as he put, will become clear to us when we make that desire a very, very clear goal. It's not complicated. It's very simple. It does mean making a very clear goal, so clear your subconscious mind grabs hold of it and starts working at it and starts showing you what steps to take next. Now, I do remember vividly, years ago I was a piano teacher. I had a total of 3 students over the years. One wanted to learn classical, and I kept giving her these little teeny pieces. It's simple learning classical because there's these, you start so simply, with these little short, simple things, and you learn that, and then you just slowly progress. So it's not difficult. But I kept saying it was simple to her. It's simple. Here, this piece is simple. And finally, I'll never forget, she just exploded one afternoon and said, stop saying it's simple. It's simple to you because you know how to play it. It's not simple to me because I don't know how to play it. And I thought, that's so true. It's so true. It was not easy or simple for her because she didn't know. And yet, if I knew then what I know now, I would have just calmly sat her down and said, look, you can make it simple. We'll lower the gradient. We'll take it back. We'll work on a simpler piece if you want. But I want to make it simple for you because it is simple. And a great way for you to help yourself is for you to stop telling yourself it's hard. Stop telling yourself, oh, it's difficult, it's hard. Start telling yourself you're easily learning piano in a simple and relaxed way. In an easy and relaxed way, you're learning piano. If she would have been able to tell herself that, it would have been much easier for her. Is it that simple? In a way, it is. It is that simple. What we tell ourselves becomes true in our experience. Most of us tell ourselves a whole bunch of very confused messages over the course of a long day. So no wonder our subconscious mind is confused. When we become aware of that process and start being more consistent with the programming that we're giving our subconscious mind, we start seeing results. I remember Eckhart in one of his talks. It's one of the 2 talks we published here at New World Library. So it's either Living the Liberated Life or In the Presence of a Great Mystery. One of those talks, he says, it's so simple. He actually gets right down to that, saying, it's so simple. And he's talking about just being here in the moment, just letting go of that thought that's keeping you from being in the moment. My Zen teacher said, it's so simple. Everyone can meditate. Everyone can. He said, just take a deep breath, and as you breathe out, let all thought go. For that moment, you have mastered Zen meditation. It's so simple. Well, not only is that simple, everything I'm saying is simple too. When I look back on what I did, I can see that I just made a few simple changes in my life. Now, yes, they resulted in a rewiring of complex thought processes, and you can make it very difficult. But the essence of what happened is very simple. That wonderful movie, What the Bleep, talked about it, showing how every thought we have whips through these synaptic pathways in our brains. As we change our thoughts, we change those pathways, and the old ones just atrophy and finally end up even disconnecting. Well, it's just a matter then of constantly reinforcing those new synaptic pathways that are empowering to us and letting go of those old pathways that were not serving us. That's really it. Is it that simple? Yes. Years ago, I heard the analogy that a plane is off course over 95% of the time, but the pilot just keeps correcting over and over. When I heard that, I thought, that's it. That's the story of my life. As soon as I dared dream of a goal the day I turned 30, I set my course. I finally had a course. I wandered around my 20s, really having no clear destination. So no wonder I didn't get anywhere. And I woke up the day I turned 30 in a state of shock, and I had no job. I had no money whatsoever. I realized I had no clear goal. So that day, I made a clear goal. I really pondered what I wanted to do with my life. I dared take a sheet of paper and write ideal scene at the top and imagine 5 years had passed and everything had gone as well as I ideally could imagine what my life looked like. And much to my amazement, what spilled out was this whole vision of a very different life than I had, having a publishing company and writing books and recording music, having a beautiful home, and most importantly, as I thought it through, having a life of ease. Sorry, I had this cough I got from my kids. Having a life of ease, not working too hard. That became my ideal. That was my ideal. Well, as soon as I dared write it down, I had a goal. I had a destination to start taking my first little tiny steps toward. As soon as I did that, what happens, of course? I was overwhelmed with doubts and fears. And all this old programming, all this old conditioning, all these things that well-meaning parents and siblings and school systems and media had just imprinted deeply into my subconscious. All of that rose to the surface. And with every one of those negative or limiting thoughts, I would get off course. But then I kept getting back to it. And I found it was simple to get back to it. The process is simple. all it took was one thought. You could only think one thought at one time. I had this argument with my son who, at age 8 thought he knew everything. Now he's 11. He still thinks he knows everything. But he swears he can think two things at the same time. And I say, no, your thought goes down one synaptic pathway. Now, a tiny, tiny bit of a second later, you can have another thought going down another synaptic pathway. But you can't have two simultaneously. One thought will get you back on course. One thought can overcome years of negative limiting programming. And that's the process that I came to realize and came to see absolutely worked. When I would feel that frustration, when I would hear those doubts, when other people would tell me things that mirrored my own doubts. Like as soon as I told my dad I was starting a business, his first words were, well, 80% of businesses fail in their first 2 years. Well, he was just mirroring my own doubts. And people tend to do that until you get clearer about the truth of your own abilities and capabilities in fulfilling your dreams, until you really realize within every desire is the seed and mechanics for its fulfillment. That is true, and that is powerful. That is so powerful it can overcome so many doubts and fears. And so the process, I see it over and over and over, was getting off course, and maybe I was off course 95% of the time. I'll bet it was over 95% of the time. But then I'd fish around and find that one thought that got me back on course. I'd remember that one phrase, whatever it is. My book Millionaire course, I have something like 162 keys in there. Every one was a phrase that I heard somewhere or other. A few I came up with myself. Most I heard from somewhere else. And those were the kind of phrases I would just grab onto and repeat to myself as forcefully as I could to get me back on course again. And I see the whole process. It took me from 30 to 35 to get to the point where my dominant thinking was focused on a goal. And then things changed real quickly. From 30 to 35, I made the goal at 30. The first 5 years were difficulty and struggle and chaos and problems because I was off course almost all the time, overwhelmed with problems. And I didn't understand then what I know now. I just had to learn it the hard way through the school of hard knocks. And it took me 5 years of losing money and struggling emotionally as well as financially until finally it was a sort of a cumulative thing. Finally, the little pieces I'd learned started falling into place and things started coming together. And I started seeing more and more simply how it all works. And it is a very simple process. You don't have to believe me. There's nothing to believe in. My program requires no faith at all. I never had to take some kind of leap of faith and come in to believe in these things. But I had to be willing to try them. I had to be willing to try them. Even if you don't believe in affirmations, they are so powerful that if you're willing to try them, you're going to see a result. Unless you're just so deeply skeptical that you completely deny everything immediately after you try it. For that kind of deep skepticism, there's not much hope. It does require an openness. But that's all it requires is an openness. It doesn't require that you believe in these principles. Just try them and see that they work. It boils down to the power of thought. It boils down to stuff that is not new at all. People have been saying this for hundreds and for thousands of years. And maybe Eckhart is right. I hope so. Maybe this is the first time that really large masses of people are starting to understand these teachings. These teachings for thousands of years have been understood by just a few people, a very, very few people. Now, they're being understood by more and more people. I was so glad to see the success of the movie The Secret and the huge amount of people that reached, because there is no secret about The Secret. No one's ever tried to keep it secret. One part of the movie that was completely fictionalized and a bit ridiculous was the part where they had all the fat cats in the 1900s, 1800s sitting around the boardroom smoking cigars saying, we have to keep this a secret from our workers. And then it switched to the factories where all the workers are on the floor, as if the fat cats needed to keep the secret from their workers, otherwise they'd quit their jobs and become fat cats themselves. Well, it doesn't. They never had to do that. It doesn't work that way, because for thousands of years, so few people have really been able to put these simple things into practice that there's always been a huge number of workers that are willing to work for very little, because they really don't understand the simple principles of success. And they are simple. And they don't require any special knowledge. They don't require special education, any special intelligence, any special gifts or talents. They require nothing you don't have. That I've really gotten to understand. You have everything you need to create the life of your dreams. I absolutely believe that. It's great if you can just make a leap of faith and believe that and go onward. But you don't even have to believe it. If you do dare to dream of the most expansive goal you can think of for your life, and you make a written plan to get there, you will be guided. You will be guided if you keep at it with persistence. You will absolutely be guided what steps you need to take. Now, maybe you'll wander around and take a lot of steps that don't move you forward. Maybe, in fact, probably, that plan will change a whole lot. Your goals might even change a whole lot. But that simple process unleashes this creative force that every one of us can access. There's nothing new in this. I had this great quote that I put in my email that to me sounds as if it could have been written yesterday, and it was written 2,250 years ago in a book called Yoga Sutras by Patanjali. And in there he says, when you are inspired by some great purpose, some extraordinary project, all your thoughts break their bonds. Your mind transcends limitations. Your consciousness expands in every direction, and you find yourself in a new, great, and wonderful world. Dormant forces, faculties, and talents become alive, and you discover yourself to be a greater person by far than you ever dreamed yourself to be. That puts it so beautifully, what I've come to see and understand. The process itself, if you dare to dream and dare go for it, then the process itself helps you expand. you find yourself in a new, great, and wonderful world. Dormant forces, faculties, and talents become alive. Forces, faculties, talents you never even knew you had become alive. It makes sense because, of course, unless we have the right venue to express our talents, we don't even express them. And by remaining small and fearful and sensible and concerned about security, we never realize our own abilities and talents at all. They remain hidden. All those fears we have are unfounded. I think it was Mark Twain that at the end of his life said that he spent so much of his life being fearful, and looking back on it, 99% of his fears were completely unwarranted. And the 1% that actually were warranted, it wasn't any good to fear them anyway because he just dealt with whatever happened. So he's saying all of our fears are unnecessary. All of our fears. We might as well be fearless. We might as well act as if it's impossible to fail and to just go for our dreams. When we do, all kinds of dormant forces, faculties, and talents become alive. I love that phrase. To me, this wording it's brilliant. It's as if some great writer wrote that yesterday. So no wonder it's such a classic. There is nothing new in what I'm saying. I had some criticism on my book Billionaire course by editors that had worked on it saying, Mark, this is filled with all these quotes of all these different people. Too many quotes of other people. And I said, no, I wanted to include every quote that changed my life. Every quote that I heard, that I wrote down and repeated. Because every one of those quotes got me back on track. Because I kept getting off track over and over and over until I finally got it through my thick skull that I'm perfectly capable of creating success. It took me 5 years to convince myself to really overcome these underlying beliefs. When I look back at me in my early 30s, I was this bundle of conflicting beliefs. And part of me really felt that if I got too involved in business, it would destroy my creativity. It would destroy my spiritual life. Because money corrupts, really, doesn't it? I mean, money. All the great artists were beyond money. They didn't worry about money. All the great spiritual leaders, of course, had nothing to do with money. But here, I had come to a point where I realized I needed to make a certain amount of money to support myself. No one else was doing it for me. No one had come along and said, Mark, you're such a wonderful guy. Here's $1 million. Just go be a creative artist and be spiritual, and I'll support you. Well, that never happened. So I had to be that guy. And I had to look at these deep beliefs I had and start weeding out the ones that were not serving me. So a whole lot of those beliefs about money, I just had to let go. How did I let go of them? Well, first I became aware of them. I realized I believed I was a fool with money. I believed I was out of control with money. I didn't understand it. Well, whenever the anxiety around money would come up, I started affirming, I am sensible and in control of my finances. I am creating total financial success in an easy and relaxed manner in a healthy and positive way. That became the new synapse in my brain that I encouraged. I'm sensible and in control of my finances. When that anxiety would come, and I remember it vividly, it came right from my stomach, this anxiety about money. Oh, I don't understand it. It's not working financially. I'm struggling. I'm deep in credit card debt. I don't understand it. It was me whining. It was my little inner child whining that I didn't have it together and I didn't understand. So that kind of misguided, small thinking was what was derailing me from creating my dream. I had started picturing my dream. I knew I wanted a company just sailing along smoothly. I wanted a steady stream of income from doing projects that I loved to do. And I didn't want to work too hard. I wanted plenty of time for family and friends and music and evenings and mornings and Mondays to have plenty of time for myself. I could see my ideal scene vividly. When I was in my little slum apartment in Oakland, I could see myself walking around my big white house on a hill, having all day with nothing to do. That was my ideal. Your ideal will probably be different. But I really encourage you to dare dream that ideal. And then sit down and take a sheet of paper and plan on the steps you need to take to reach that ideal. My plan for my company kept changing, as I've often said. The plan for my real estate was the one plan I made when I was 30 that did not change and that just went absolutely according to plan. Every other plan I've ever made has changed a lot. But real estate, I made one plan. I still remember it exactly. I took a sheet of paper. Goal. Get into real estate. Ideal scene. Have a big, beautiful white house on a hill in Marin County, California. I was in a slum apartment in Oakland, struggling to get together $65 a month. So I dared to dream. Okay, plan. What's my plan? Step one, I put move to Marin and rent. And begin to learn more about real estate. Read about real estate. Learn how it works. Then buy, eventually, the cheapest single-family detached home in Marin County. And that's finally what I did. I literally was able to buy the cheapest home in the county. I didn't care what it looked like. I didn't care where it was. It was right by the freeway. It was a little house. Fine. I bought it. And I lived there for about 7 years. And then the next step was live there long enough to build enough equity to be able to move into a nicer house. And I did that. And then it was live there long enough to build substantial equity and be able to get your big white home on the hill. And that's exactly what I did. These things are so powerful that even if you're filled with doubts and fears and frustration, if you make a plan with a clear goal at the top and start taking some steps toward that goal, you will be guided. You'll get there. The only thing that'll get you off track is yourself, your own thinking. Your success is not dependent on anybody else out there. Your success or failure is totally dependent on you. And that's great, because you can't control other people out there. People have come to me and said, you have to publish my book. And I said, no. They have to set it up so that it's not dependent on me. I know other authors saying, I've got to get on Oprah. Well, you may not get on Oprah. Don't make it dependent on Oprah. Make it dependent only on yourself. Mm. You make a plan. You're going to do this. You're going to do that. You're going to build that. You're going to move in this direction. If that doesn't work, you'll move in this direction. But it's all up to you. I have no doubt then, with focus and persistence, you can succeed. It is not complicated at all. It is very simple. And you've heard it a million times. It's just we keep forgetting it, we get frustrated, we get off track. Then we need to find whatever single phrase it is that gets us back on track. Whether we pull out our plan and review it, whether we get back to our affirmations, whatever it is, when we get off track, we just have it. And we can be off track 95% of the time and still reach our destination if we just keep getting back on track. Keep taking whatever step we can take this week to move us toward that goal. I firmly believe anybody can succeed if they make a clear plan with that goal at the top and then take whatever obvious steps are obvious to take. And they're never big steps, they're just little steps. They're never a huge, huge leap. Every journey of 1,000 miles begins with one little step and consists of one little step after another little step. I think that's enough for now. I'll take some questions. Time just flies when I start talking like this. But have any questions arisen with this? Does it seem too simple? Any feedback? You can hit *6 to get back in. Yes. Anyone want to comment?
Hi, Mark. This is Jennifer.
Hi, Jennifer.
Hi. I'm wondering, as far as these goals go, how many of them can you really skillful? How many can you handle at one point, in one time chunk?
That's a good question. I mean, some people say, "Oh, you should focus on one, or two, or." But I always get back to my ideal scene. When I started, I remember my list of goals I had 12 goals, 12 very different goals, involving creating a business, writing books, performing music, recording music, getting into real estate, having a family, having some personal time. And I remember there were 12 goals. And I kicked that around for a while with myself. These, Doubts and Fears said, pick one and focus on it. Otherwise, you'd be a jack of all trades and a master of none. But when I thought it through, what became my guidance was going back to my ideal scene and saying, no, I want my ideal. And ideally, I want it all. I want it all. So I went for it all. And I found that goals, you can have a lot of goals, and they become sort of self-prioritizing. You work toward as many as you can, and then some will automatically come to the forefront and start working, and those you focus on. And some will kind of fade into the back burner for a while, and then you have to go back to later. So I wouldn't be afraid of a lot of goals. Look at the real, successful people of history. I mean, people like Ben Franklin and Jefferson, and look how many different areas they worked in.
Did you have a real clear, visceral, visual sense of this scene? I mean, was it really in your body?
I don't feel things really physically or viscerally, I think. But I did have I had a clear image, a clear visual image of me walking around my big white home on a hill by this big tree and having all this time to myself. That definitely was clear, and an image I kept coming back to over and over and over.
Thank you.
People are different, and the more visceral the better. Does visceral mean like physical feeling it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure the more physical you are of feeling it, the better.
Yeah, we're going to have to be no.
You know what I really appreciate about what you're sharing is this focus on ease and it being really easy. And having a lot of time. It just seems like the images of success and ease and time seem so separated in our culture. And
yeah, that may be my unique contribution to it all. And I do remember at first when I dared put that in there as part of my ideal scene, my doubts and fears were just vociferous, saying, impossible, Mark, never been done. You got to work 60 to 80 hours a week to start up a company, and you won't have time to write books and music and all this on and on. And I just kept letting that go and saying, let me try this experiment. This is a good experiment to go for my dreams in my own lazy way and do it only when I feel like doing it. And so my experiment allowed me to be as lazy as I wanted to be. I don't do mornings. I don't do Mondays. I slept till noon today. And so that's the life I wanted. At first it did seem like, it probably wouldn't work, actually, and my experiment would fail because I had so much programming. But then over the years, it shifted so much until now I really feel not only is it possible to have a life of ease and be real successful, but it's the best possible way to do it. Because in the long run, you don't burn out. You have a much better life. You don't get sick nearly as much. You don't need that vacation. I think we have a workaholic type A culture, and people work till they drop, till they make themselves sick in order to. I think that the whole universe is speaking to us saying, take it easy, relax more, and we don't. So then the universe says, well, you're not going to relax, so here, I'll make you sick, so you have to spend 3 days in bed. We do have a workaholic culture, and yes, that's my unique contribution. At first it seemed like a really radical thing I was doing, but now I've done it for so many years, it just seems like obviously it's the best way to live and work. I never burn out. I never need a vacation. I'm going to Europe for a month this summer. I take my breaks, but I don't need to. It's very possible to have a life of ease and yet really succeed doing what you love to do. I tell these people that work 60, 70 hours, half the time they're not working productively anyway. It'd be far better rather than powering through another afternoon when you're actually really wanting to sleep. It'd be far better to go sleep. So you come back rested and energized. And when I get into the office Tuesday afternoon, I'm ready to go. I'm really ready to go. And I know I'm working productively.
Mark, I just wanted to mention that we're back online now, so I can, since we still have a bit of feedback coming from people's lines, I can go ahead and mute everybody.
Oh, good.
And then, but what happens is sometimes if you have *6 pressed,
you'll be
and
unmuted.
you mute everyone, it can, you can not hear anything, so you just press *6 if you can't hear anything.
Good.
So I'm going to mute everybody.
Good.
Hello, Mark.
Are you there?
Hello, Mark.
Hello.
This is Brian.
Brian.
Got a lot of beeping going on.
Yeah. People are star-sixing away here, I guess.
I find myself, writing goals down on the wall and writing lists over here and getting them buried over there. And like the rest of my life, everything, I got so much going on in 12 directions that then the list gets buried. And it's sort of like how to keep the focus in front of myself without becoming wallpaper. That gets in my way.
Right. Yeah, I'm totally unorganized. I lose things all the time. Both of my desks at home and work are just a pile of wreckage. It reaches what I call critical mess when I start losing things and I have to start going through piles. But the one thing I always keep is my list of goals as affirmations. I have it always on my computer, on my desktop. It's right front center, actually at the top. And then I keep printing it out, and I carry it around in my back pocket.
Well, I have one in my back pocket from when I took your workshop years ago.
Great.
And after a while it turned into dust, and then I found an old one, and I reprinted one up recently, and I've forgotten to take. It's living in my back pocket. I forgot it was there.
Yeah.
So it just keeps going on like this. But I do have one in my back pocket, and it's like I need someone to come over and tap me on the shoulder and say, "Take it out of your back pocket and read it."
Yeah, right.
I need one of those people.
Yep. But you can do that. That can be you. You can delegate that to some inner parent or something to remind you.
Well, I just want to share with you an image while I was taking notes while you were talking. Since I'm a cartoonist as well as a writer, I drew a cartoon of myself holding myself drawing at a table in my right hand up in the air, and with on the other hand, there's a huge me holding up a little me, and the other hand I have this stack of cash in my other hand. And it says I'm in charge. In other words, I'm always waiting for the next producer or publisher or somebody to save my ass or do something.
Right.
And underwrite me or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, and producers I've been counting on are going bankrupt.
Mm-hmm.
So,
right.
Oops-a-daisy,
Yeah.
So the idea of putting myself in charge is different.
Great. That's it. That's a powerful position. You're in charge. You'll find the right people to partner with along the way, which you'll need to get your work out there. But yes, you're in charge. Your success is not dependent upon some person appearing and taking you by the hand, and showing you what to do. You're in charge. You're making the plan. You put it all in motion.
Well, I'm the one who finally remembered to call and get on one of these calls.
Good.
I've had your thing up on the wall for about 4 months. I've missed every single one of them. I look at it and go, oh Jesus, damn it all,
Right.
So
good. I'm glad you.
I'm coming up the back like Mind That Bird. I've been trailing. It's like, God damn it, here we come.
Mm-hmm.
Coming up on the rail.
Yeah.
So I'm going to I'll clean this little cartoon up and send it to you.
Good, do that. I'd like that. Always amazed at cartoonists. We just published a cartoonist, the guy that does Mutts. Patrick McDonald. He loves Eckhart's work, so he took a bunch of quotes of Eckhart's and combined them with Mutt's cartoons.
Well, I've just been approached by Daniel Ladinsky about doing something similar with Rumi and Hafez.
Ooh, wonderful!
Yeah.
Oh, what a great project.
So anyway, at some point I'll get a hold of you personally because I want to tell you about some other things I got going on that are equally crazy like that. I think you'd be interested in.
Good.
But meanwhile, I'm going to get going to have a men's meeting tonight, and I'll get your cartoon, and I appreciate your talking today.
Sure. Thanks for touching in.
Okay, signing off. Bye.
Good.
Hi, Mark.
Hello, Mark.
Hi. There's two there. Let's start with the woman, and then
Oh, okay. Hi, this is Tina.
Hi.
And I'm from Orange, California. Thank you so much for doing this television. I look forward to it every month.
Great.
My question is, I'm 42 years old, and I'm at a point in my life now where I've kind of lost everything and starting over. So I'm kind of at that point where you talk about when you were poor and didn't have anything, and kind of like that. So I'm trying to, rebuild a second life here. And one of my biggest problems right now is just feeling like my wounded from what's been going on, and kind of like my spirit's been broken, and trying to restore my old self again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that is real important to find that original awareness of just how magical life is, and something every child knows. I just found this great quote the other day that reminded me again, and I find it when I hear Eckhart Tolle. For me, he's been my touchstone ever since I discovered Power Now.
Yeah, his books are by my bedside, all dog-eared and worn out.
Great, that's wonderful. And I find his CDs too, and keep them in your car. And when you feel down, plop them on in your car.
Mm-hmm.
I know that does it for me. Or just find something for you. But it is important to find something, and there are, a huge number of possibilities, but find that thing that reminds you again of how wonderful just life is.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it can be just a phrase for me. I do remember and love the phrase that Einstein said, where he said, there's just two different ways of looking at the world. One is as if there are no miracles. The other is as if everything is a miracle.
Mm-hmm.
He said, I choose the latter. I often think about that. He's saying everything is a miracle. Your life is a miracle. The fact that you're able to make these sounds with your mouth that go over this telephone line, that go into my ear, and this delicate mechanism into my brain, and I can understand what you're saying. We're amazing, phenomenal creatures. And it's all a miracle. This sun warming us right now and growing all these plants, and we tend to forget. It's the beauty of having a little child around, just to remind you. They don't sit there and worry about not having anything. They just enjoy the moment, Oh, good, there's the sun, or here's the rain, let's splash in the puddles, or a cat or a dog. I love this new book of Eckhart's with the Mutz cartoonists. I mean, what a great combination.
Is that available yet?
No, it'll be this fall.
Oh, that sounds great.
Yeah, it's just wonderful. It's Mutz cartoons and Eckhart's words, and the cats and dogs just of Mutz, just appreciating life so much.
Oh, that would be a good perpetual calendar.
Yeah.
A great calendar.
Yes, really would be.
When you were talking earlier about real estate, that's one of the things on my list as well. Is what would you suggest to start where somebody's just starting is to learn? I like what you said about learning about it, reading about it, and where should I go? Do you have any book recommendations?
Let's see. I mean, I did it so many years ago. I I know, I mean, I'm sure online now. I started before the web, so I just started reading the newspaper, the real estate section.
Mhm.
I found very valuable, and they would have little articles of, real estate for beginners sort of in there. And then I did read a few books. I read Nothing Down by Robert somebody years ago, and that explained to me even how down payments work and equity and all that stuff I was completely clueless about. And I find even at the time, this was in the early 80s, we almost always had to pay 20% down.
Mhm.
But I looked around, I didn't have much down, and I found the cheapest house in Marin, and I offered 5% down. And the second offer I made, the first offer they said, no, you need 20. I said, oh, well, I only have 5. And they said, oh, too bad. The second one, it turned out the owner was selling it, and he didn't really want to get all this cash out of it anyway.
Mhm.
And he took back a second, and I got it for 5 cents down. And so, yeah, I just learned Robert Allen, I think it was Robert Allen's book, Nothing Down, taught me about making small down payments. And just the newspaper. I'm sure there's tremendous things online, just in terms of, there's probably that book, Real Estate for Dummies. That's what I needed when I started. I mean, how does this work? I had no idea. And reading the real estate section in the paper really, really helped me.
That's a good place to start.
Yeah. Yeah, you could just browse in a good bookstore than the real estate section.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
I'm sure there'd be a good beginner's book there.
Yeah, kind of get the latest stuff in.
Yeah.
Speaking of books, are you working on any books in the future?
I'm always working on something. Now with Gina, we're starting to adapt some of our books to e-courses and things for online stuff. But I also have another idea about changing the world that I'm starting to make piles of notes of, and that's how it always starts for me.
little jigsaw puzzle pieces.
Yeah. I start the same book about 10 different times and end up with this huge pile of notes and then sit down. So yes, a new book is happening.
Very nice.
Thanks for asking. There's some unhappy dog.
I know. That's not mine.
Okay.
I don't know where that's going. All right. Mark, I look forward to your next month.
Oh, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hello, Mark.
Hello.
Hi, this is Bernard.
Hi, Bernard.
I'm from Los Angeles, but you can probably guess I've got a French accent.
Yes.
First of all, I want to thank you. I really want to thank you for your time. And I read in my life several books in my 20s, in my 30s. And when I moved to America, I read books, self-help books like Brian Tracy, one called Goals, actually. And like you had mentioned earlier, those goals drifted away. I wrote them, I see that I achieved some of them, and then they drift away. I forgot. I kept some notes, and I realized that some of those goals got realized. And then a few months ago, a book literally changed my life. And actually it changed my business too. And that book was yours. It was called Visionary Business.
Oh, excellent.
I found it in a little bookstore in Los Angeles called the Woody Tree. It was
yes. I love that store.
I found it on the counter, and I got so inspired by that book that I had a meeting with my staff, and I told them, guys, I made so many mistakes the last 2 years. Allow me to correct this. And I do not know what has occurred, but I kept reading and reading this book, and I read some other of your books. I'm quoting at the moment from your book called A Visionary Life. The trick is to make clear goals and yet to be unattached to the results. And my question is the following one. Is it possible that if one persists at writing a goal and that goal is not achieved, because the purpose of writing a goal is for the goal to be achieved. If the goal is not achieved, is it possible that something is missing? And is it possible, and I know this is not a faith-based conversation, but is it possible that the link that's missing is a spiritual element? That if we achieve a goal, fine, but is it just for ourselves, or do we need then to contribute to other people's success, to other people's lives? Like you mentioned, a book that in the moment is out of print, the 10% solution from you. I'm trying to get it, and I'm waiting. So is it possible that that's the reason why the goals are not achieved? If it's just for a selfish reason, it's not getting there. But if it's in order to help other people and humanity and friends, family, employees, and nature, then the goal will be achieved.
That's a great question. And the good goals, the expansive, excellent goals, always do serve others. Mm-hmm. I really think the great key to success is love and serve yourself and others. And success in the world is all about loving what you're doing and serving others in some great way. But that's an excellent question, and that's the reason I put, sometimes we call it the cosmic insurance policy. At the end of every list of goals, I suggest affirming, this or something better is now manifesting in totally satisfying and harmonious ways for the highest good of all. Maybe your goal is just too selfish or limited, or, maybe it's not for the highest good of all. So you put that cosmic insurance policy there, and then maybe you'll be led to a far better goal, and that goal was not meant to be because it wasn't for the highest good of all. Maybe it wasn't for your highest good.
That's exactly right, because like a month and a half ago, like so many people, I had some kind of financial issues, and I somehow wrote a goal that I wanted to get like $150,000, some kind of investor. And like the previous caller had mentioned, I realized that I was on the wrong path. What I had to do is to change my state of mind, my thought, like you had mentioned so early on. Mm-hmm. And basically, doing that, I wrote myself those 5 affirmations on May the 6th, and within less than a month, the sales quadrupled. Literally, without me getting any investment whatsoever. I don't need the investment anymore.
That's excellent.
But no, it's for me to generate that amount of money and to give it back to other people and to help other people. And I think that's why 10 years ago when I read the other books, it didn't hit me, because it was just serving a selfish purpose. I mean, selfish is maybe a strong word, but a lot of people, when we want a goal, it's often about material things. Mm-hmm. And I think that life is not just about material things. We are missing the emotional or family, and we are missing the spiritual. And that's, I believe, maybe in my case, the link that why those goals, or some of them, were not achieved, is because I was not sharing them to other people or with other people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the purely material goals will never be fulfilling. Mm-hmm. The material stuff is not what brings us fulfillment whatsoever. I sure have found, it is nice to really achieve an abundant level of material success, and the best way to do that is to work with a lot of people that you do profit sharing with, and you help a lot of other people attain material success along the way. People, with my insistence on profit sharing for every business, people just sometimes say, "Oh, it's so generous, Mark," and I do say, "No, you can call it generous, but I do it for my own selfish purposes. I have seen the best way to really make myself very wealthy is to make sure that everyone that's working with me gets wealthy. Then I get really wealthy." Mm-hmm. And I absolutely know it. I can show people with numbers because I give half my profits to my employees, we make over twice the profits that we would have otherwise. Our profit margins for book publishing are unheard of in the industry. They're higher than any other business by a substantial margin than I've ever heard of. And I know it's because it's obvious. It's because it's the profit sharing I do. So it's even okay to be selfish, and it's kind of natural. But in the best possible way to take care of yourself is to include others in your include others, make others realize we are here to serve others. Yes, we should take care of ourselves, number one, but what's the point? Well, it's to love and serve other people as well.
Absolutely.
And that is where fulfillment is found.
Thank you very much for everything that you're doing. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. A while ago, I saw the biography of J. Paul Getty, and he was the wealthiest man in the world, and he was miserable. And I thought, oh, yes, a lot of very wealthy people are miserable, are sad, pathetic, unfulfilled people. You wouldn't want their lives, even though they have all the wealth you could imagine, some of them. So.
Hey, Mark?
Yes.
Hi, this is Jillian.
Hi, Jillian.
I'm calling from Lawrence, Kansas. I'm a little inland. I'm glad that actually I'm in the order of the question askers, I suppose, because the one young woman who from Orange County, I believe, who's going through a hard time trying to rebuild her life at age 42, and there's an element of if you have to ask yourself sometimes, am I lazy or am I depressed? Or that whole it's like what you're going through biologically, but I know also there's a very, very deep spiritual element there, like Bernard was saying, and and I've been writing since I was age 12, and have had the desire to get into spiritual publishing, book publishing, but I've been working in all these different odd editorial writing type jobs and academic publishing type jobs for years on and off, and I'm currently 39. And I realized one day, and I've also been studying astrology since I was about 12 as well. And I realized I've been trying to do, astrology in the background, for my friends, and I was looking at it as a hobby, but it wasn't until listening to some of these great podcasts that I realized, I do have some knowledge to offer, to help others. And I have helped people a lot out by putting out their charts. And so just this last year, I decided to get out of the so-called rat race working for other people because I'm too stubborn, independent. I'm not a morning person either. And it's just, so what I'm asking basically is, I'm not sure if I have a question or a comment really, but I think that, astrological timing as well, studying what happens at certain people's transits, like at age 30 is the Saturn return, when you kind of like, it's a rite of passage into adulthood, and then at age 42 we go through our Neptune square, and where we're all disillusioned, and life's not what it is, and and we experience loss of some sort, and I'm wondering actually if you use astrology ever in financial speculation and work with the cosmos in that way?
I sort of do my own sort of very generalized astrology. In my early 20s, I used to be really into it. I even did people's charts and wrote a book on it.
Oh, I didn't know that, actually.
Yeah, I wrote a book called Astrology for the New Age. It's out of print, but Astrology for the New Age, an intuitive approach. And I had a lot of fun with astrology. And to this day, what I watch the days of the week. Mm-hmm. They're each named after a planet. That's why Monday, Moon Day,
right? Exactly. Yeah.
Moon Day is a quiet, reflective day. I think that's what most
Right.
people feel. So it's the worst day to start a work.
I know.
And, Saturday, good to take care of details. Sunday, great for outdoors and family and church and stuff. Moon Day. So I watched then Tuesday, Mars Day.
Right, best work day of the week.
That's a good day to start work. Mars.
Yeah.
And then Wednesday is Mercury in French, or Mercury Day, or Odin's Day in English. The Norse took over, but
right.
Mercury Day, good for communication and da-da-da, good middle of the week, one around, da-da-da. Thursday, Thor's Day, Jupiter Day, expansive. I often push meetings to Thursday or Friday, but Thursday's great for meetings, and people are feeling good. And then Friday, or Frida's Day, or Venus
Day, yeah.
And that's great for... So I watch that, and I watch the months. In the spring we go into Aries. That's a really good time to launch new things. The month before Pisces, the end of winter there, it's not a good time. It's a good time to relax, reflect, take a break. Don't push things. Don't try anything new. Wait till Aries to really launch something. Or Gemini or Leo. The months almost alternate from an active month to a time to slow down a bit. So I do watch that through the year, the different months.
I realized I did have a question. I do have a question for you, and that is, I'm very much, I'm a double Gemini. My sun and moon in Gemini in the 6th house, and I recently married a Sun Mercury in Gemini. And although I'm more of the moony side, and we've got a finger in every pie, but I come from, my background is, I get up late in the morning. I'm a bear. I'm kind of very Saturnian in nature, Capricorn rising, so I'm very much about TM, living in the moment, feeling like following my dreams, intuitive hunches, and he's very much hops up like a bunny and in the morning, and it's a good compliment. But then he's the type of person who, at the end of the day, is like, okay, did this check, and then he asks me what I do, and I'm like, actually, I didn't do anything on my to-do list today. Have you ever had feelings of guilt? I'm trying to kind of forge out my own area here, and it's like dealing with the naysayers and the people you should be productive and following, not following the stars, disaster, rather than, following your hunches and so how do you deal with those types of people in your personal life?
Yes. Oh, I've had very similar relationships to you. I mean, I remember being with a woman who would just sit up in the morning and make her list and, start her day with tons of energy, and I would take literally 3 or 4 hours to get going. And yeah, I mean, it's wonderful to just keep going back to your ideal scene. This is what kept me sane through that kind of thing, and where I didn't buy into their guilt trip, because I had my deep doubts about it all, whether I was right or not, especially when I began. I had a lot of inner voices and outer that told me, no, you couldn't succeed and still be lazy. It was impossible, I had a lot of doubts like that. I got around it by really saying to myself, this is my ideal. This is what I really want. This is my goal. A life of ease, success with ease, not working too hard. That's my dream. I'm going to go for it and see if it works. And so I've then you come, when you really keep looking at your ideal scene, what's right for you? What's the kind of life for you? Then you get to a point where you can confidently say, hey, you want to live your life in your own way. That is success. Let others, if your husband, wants to get up early and go, if he's a real type A workaholic, if that's what makes him happy, great. But it's not what makes you happy. And you won't try to change his life, and you won't listen to those that try to change yours.
Most of my planets are on the western side of my chart. That's more, the whole eastern western hemisphere.
Right, yeah. Me too. Mine are all in the western.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
So in terms of, it's like I rely on his energy sometimes to get me going, and so it's this really tenuous balance of, okay, wait, I need you to inspire me, and I need you to work with, but then it's like, wait a second,
Right. Let me do it my way.
Right.
I love that song. Do it my way. But that famous quote about, what is success? I mean, to live your life in your own way, to be the person you want to be.
Mm-hmm.
That is success. No one else can tell you what success means to you.
Right.
No one else can tell me. They've sure tried over the years, but no way that all they're doing is saying what it is for them.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, a lot of people, there's people that love hard work, and more power to them, and I wish them happiness, and I do tell them, hey, you do have to balance all that hard work with some R&R and take care of yourself and learn how to relax, learn how to take a vacation and really take a vacation, and don't run around all day and come back exhausted from your vacation, which so many people do. I had to teach my wife, and she's Brazilian, she should know better, but she has a lot of energy to work hard, and even on vacation it was, what should we do today? Where should we go? Buzz, buzz, buzz. And I keep saying, I'm going nowhere. I'm doing nothing. This is what vacation is about.
Yeah.
So we work out compromises and things, but definitely, keep dreaming and keep your ideal in mind, and I just want to follow my own biorhythms every moment, do what I love to do in the moment, and if that means sleeping all day, great, that's what I want to do that day. That's my ideal.
Mm.
And so I do it, and then inevitably the next day I have lots of energy to go in the office and take care of 20 emails and 10 phone calls and everything,
Yeah. And just out of curiosity, one last thing. Are your astrostats public, or are you public with those at all, like your birth date and time?
My what? Oh, birth date and time?
Yeah.
I even put it in the back of my book.
Oh, it's funny, and but I don't have.
Yeah. No, I was born July 1st, 1946, although I'm very young for my age, up in northern Minnesota. So.
Mm-hmm. And
I'm a moon child with Aquarius rising.
And is the specific stats online, or do you have like a time or a city?
Yeah, it was Rosa, Minnesota, something like 8:50 p.m. I think it was, something like that.
Yeah.
Rosa's way up north near International Falls and stuff.
Yeah, I'm from Michigan originally, so yeah. Well, it's just out of curiosity, since it's nice to study, when you study charts and transits, to look at a person's life story and what might have happened at that time, and which I'm sure you've already done. So, so I thank you so much for talking with me.
And thanks to everybody here, and for those that aren't into it, for putting up with the astrological talk.
Yeah, sorry.
It's okay. It's kind of fun for me. But it is time to draw it to a close, and I thank all of you, and I encourage you all to go for your dreams. And I'll be here next month already. It's June already, so I'll be here early July. Then I'm taking a break in August because I'll be in Europe. So I'll talk to you in the first Wednesday in July. Take care. I wish you all well.
Thank you, Mark.